Hi guys, I decided to also read the story that I've been working on. Hopefully I can get through all the pages, but as you see here, it is pretty thick. It's about 26 pages right now. Hopefully I can get through them all, but let's see how far we go. The story is called A Cutter's Life. I did start the video on this before, but I don't remember where I stopped, so I'm doing the entire thing over. Once upon a time, there was a young girl who went by the name of Cindy. She was about to turn 16 years old in a week. Cindy was a junior in high school. She seemed like a normal teenage student, but she had a secret. She had a secret no one was aware of. She is a cutter. She has been a cutter for 2 years. She has cuts, bruises, and scars from her cutting. She always wore long sleeves to hide them. No one ever suspected she would do something like that. When someone asked her why she wore long sleeves, even during the summer, she said that she was too cold. She hid them very well. No one ever suspected that she was cutting. She never showed her sadness or pain. She never even cried, except when she was at home in her bedroom. Every night she locked herself in her bedroom and grabbed her knife and clenched her fist tight and slit her wrist. She found comfort watching herself bleed. She always felt like no one cared about her. The blood was running down from her wrist. The blood running down from her wrist was the only thing that made her feel loved. She went through a lot, but she never showed how much it hurt her. She went to school each day acting like nothing was wrong, but deep inside she couldn't be in more pain. She tried never to let her true feelings show. She didn't have that many friends at school. Cindy was usually a very quiet girl. She was a very intelligent student. She never answered any questions in class out loud. Cindy wrote down her assignments every day and always got them done. One day, her friend Susie noticed something strange about Cindy during school. She had her head down in every class. It seemed like Cindy had something in her hand, and her sleeve was pulled up during class. But she pulled it back down before the class was over. Susie was suspicious about what she was doing, so she asked Cindy if she could talk at lunch. Cindy was not talking like she normally did, but she said yeah and rushed to her next class. The day went on and the bell rang to signal that it was time for lunch. Cindy got up and headed to the cafeteria and sat at a table by herself. Then Susie sat next to her at lunch and asked Cindy to look up so they could talk. Cindy slowly lifted her head off the table and looked at Susie. Susie looked up as well and seen that Cindy was crying earlier that day. As Susie seen Cindy's face, her jaw dropped for a second and then asked what was wrong. Cindy quietly answered Susie and said life. Susie was worried about her, so she hugged her, trying to comfort her. Cindy tried to hide the tears for the rest of the day. During the last class of the day, Susie asked her to come over to her house after school. Cindy was allowed to go wherever she wanted after school, so she went to hang out with Susie. Susie was very worried about her, so she knew that something was going on with her. When they got to Susie's house, they went to her bedroom to talk. Susie asked her what was she doing during class. Cindy originally didn't have the courage to tell her, so she started to cry. So Susie comforted her as she said, "It is okay. You can tell me anything." Cindy finally built up the strength to show Susie her wrist. So Cindy pulled her sleeve up and showed Susie the scars and the cuts on her wrist. Susie was frightened by the sight of the cuts and scars on Cindy's wrist. She wanted to scream because she can't believe that her best friend is a cutter, but she didn't because she didn't want to frighten Cindy. Cindy did not need any more stress on her. Susie froze in silence for a few moments, and then she finally figured out what she wanted to say. Before Susie began to speak, Cindy broke out in tears again. It was as if Cindy knew what Susie was going to say. Susie hugged Cindy, trying to calm her down. Then she asked, when did she start cutting? Cindy was still crying, so she could not speak clearly. Susie waited and held Cindy until she finally could speak. Once Cindy could talk again, she said she has been cutting for 2 years. Susie couldn't believe what she just heard. She couldn't believe that her best friend hid something this serious from her for 2 years. Susie thought that they told each other everything. So much was running through Susie's mind at once. Susie didn't care about what was going on in her mind because only one question stuck out to her the most. Susie finally asked Cindy why she started cutting. Cindy answered in a quiet voice. Cindy said, "I have been getting bullied at school, and the pain from arguing with my parents have been the major issues." She paused for a moment. Cutting was a way of relief, and a way to escape the real world. "I used to only cut at night in my bedroom, but lately I can't control it anymore. I finally cracked at school today. I had enough and just gave up. I tried to hide it and tried to hold off until I got home, but I couldn't do it. Everything started flooding back to me, so I couldn't wait. I had to do it," Cindy said. Susie felt so helpless because she didn't know what to do for Cindy. Susie got up and went to her closet and grabbed a journal and gave it to Cindy. As she gave it to her, she said, "Cindy, please don't cut anymore. I never used this journal and I want you to have it. Try writing in this when you need to escape. If you need to, just keep it private, but use it please, Cindy. I don't want to see you cutting. If you can't hold back, then just know my door is always open for you, and so are my ears. And you can tell me anything, and I promise you I will never judge, and I promise you I will always keep a secret." Susie also knew that Cindy had a knife on her, so she asked Cindy to give her knife to her. Cindy handed it over to Susie as she said, "Thank you, Susie. You are the only one who understands me, and thank you for everything you are doing for me." "I really appreciate it," Susie smiled and said, "I am glad I could help, and I am really glad you told me." After that, Susie walked Cindy back home. They said bye to each other at Cindy's front door because she didn't know what was going to happen when she came in the house. Cindy knew that someone was going to start yelling when she entered the house because every day when she got home, someone was always yelling. That is why Cindy never brought any friends home. Well, after Susie started to head home, head back to her house, Cindy went inside. Cindy was right about the yelling. Her mother was yelling at her because she never called and said where she was going. Cindy didn't call because she knew that her parents didn't really care. Cindy ran to her room and locked the door. Everything was flooding back to her again. She wanted to cut again, and she had a knife hidden in a drawer. She remembered that she promised Susie that she would not cut. She had the journal right beside her that Susie gave her. She remembered that she told Susie she would try to use the journal instead of cutting. A lot was going on at the time. She had tears running down her face. She saw that she had a pen next to her. She grabbed the pen and the journal, opened the journal, and started to write. She was so focused in the writing that she didn't realize her mother was still yelling at her outside of her door. She couldn't understand a word that her mother was saying. She honestly didn't care about what she was saying either. She knew that if she knew what her mother was saying, she would be in more pain than she already is. She couldn't handle the pain it would cause. She tried to not worry about anything and just to write out her problems, but it was getting harder and harder to do. She wrote all night in the journal and she couldn't sleep at all. The next morning she sent Susie a text saying thank you for the journal and we need to talk at school today. Then she waited for Susie to respond back. Susie responded back to Cindy, "No problem, Cindy. I'm glad I could help you, and we can talk anytime you want, Cindy." Cindy was glad to have a friend like Susie. Susie was Cindy's only friend that knew she was a cutter, and Cindy wanted to keep it that way. They both lived within walking distance of their school. They both started to head to school. It was a good morning for both the girls, because Cindy got out of her house before her mother got up. She ran out of the house as fast as she could because she knew that if her mother got up, she would start yelling at her again. Cindy could not handle another yelling incident already that morning. Susie was worried about Cindy, but she didn't show it because she didn't want anyone to ask her what was wrong. Cindy couldn't betray Susie couldn't betray Cindy's trust. Cindy couldn't handle someone betraying her right now, and Susie knew that. Plus, Susie couldn't betray her best friend like that in the first place. Susie was too kind and respectful to do something like that. Susie was a great friend, and Cindy could never ask for anything better. Susie had a problem though. She wanted Cindy to get help, and she knew that she wouldn't get help on her own. She could not break Cindy's trust. Cindy just told Susie about her deepest secret, which shows that she definitely trusts Susie. Cindy needs someone she can trust. She couldn't handle someone breaking her trust right now. They both met each other at the school doors. They got to school early so they could talk. They went to the side of the school to talk. Cindy was looking kind of down. Susie seen she was down and asked what was wrong. Cindy was upset about the day before and pulled out the journal that Susie gave her and asked her to read what she wrote. Susie was a little concerned when she said that. Susie gently took the journal from Cindy's hands and started to read what she wrote. Susie almost started crying from worry and fear. Cindy knew she was worried about her, so she figured it would be okay as she read her journal. Cindy didn't know what to say. Okay guys, that's all I can put in this video because the time's running out and I don't have the setting for more than 15 minutes. Hope you enjoy.